Hey, what's up you guys? It's Rami. Welcome back to my channel. I'm filming outside today because it is such a beautiful day today. And of course we're sitting in self-isolation and quarantine at home. I can't really do much but go to work and come home. So I thought I would enjoy some fresh air. Today's video is my #1 requested video. It's how to become a labor and delivery nurse. I'm going to be talking a little bit about my journey and the easiest way to get into labor and delivery and just some tips and tricks to get into it because it is a very hard specialty to get into. I obviously wasn't able to become a labor and delivery nurse right off the bat, right out of graduation. So I'm just going to tell you guys some tips and tricks of how to get into the unit. So let's get started. I'm of course drinking my favorite tea. So of course, to become a labor and delivery nurse, you have to go to nursing school. There's plenty of options to get into nursing school, whether that is an accelerated program, classes at a local community college, and then transfer over to a nursing school. They also have nursing programs at a community college. You can also get into a 4-year bachelor's program at a university. This video is going to be mostly focused on what happens after graduation, how do you apply and get the position. The easiest way for a new grad to get a position in labor and delivery is to apply for a residency. These days it's practically impossible to find a job just on the floor without getting into a residency first. Usually residencies are pretty general, like you just apply to the residency itself, and if they pick you, depending on your resume and application, you get to pick like what specialties you're really interested in, and they'll let you know if that job is available. That's exactly what I did whenever I was a new grad and was applying to positions. I was applying to residency positions, and I did apply for labor and delivery. I feel like I've said this a lot in my videos, but they ended up not having the position available because they had already filled it by the time I interviewed. I'm not really sure why they interviewed me anyways, but they did have an antepartum position available, and that is what I decided to go into, was antepartum. And what I personally ended up doing was 2 years after I was an antepartum nurse, I decided to cross-train to labor and delivery, and now I'm half labor and delivery and half antepartum because I'm the only one cross-trained. Whenever they need help, they float me over to the unit half of the time because they usually need more help than my regular antepartum unit. So that is what I'm doing currently. The easiest way to get into labor and delivery position, and this is more for if you are like a junior or a first semester senior right now, be a patient care tech in a women's service division, whether it's postpartum, antepartum, labor and delivery, triage, NICU. We have a lot of women's service units that you can be a tech on. So a patient care tech is someone that is like a CNA. There's different names for it: multi-skilled worker, patient care tech, or CNA. A CNA you actually need a certification for, but if you take fundamentals of nursing, which is your first semester course usually in nursing school, you can become a patient care tech or multi-skilled worker. You usually don't have to take extra classes for it. All you need is fundamentals of nursing, and you can apply for the position most of the time. So the easiest way is to become a patient care tech in the hospital, either in the women's services division. Labor and delivery will be your best option, but if not, any women's service position will do. Or become a patient care tech on any unit in the hospital, as long as it's the hospital you're planning on working for. This is because it's a lot easier for HR or the nursing recruiters to pick somebody that is an internal candidate, is what they call them, versus an external candidate or someone that doesn't work for the hospital, because you don't have to go through the onboarding process, you don't have to go through all that training that everyone has to. So usually the internal candidates or the people that are already working there get the first pick, and that is definitely true at my hospital. For one nursing residency cohort, we had a complete cohort full of internal candidates or techs that already worked at the hospital. So that's your best bet at getting a labor and delivery position or any position at a hospital that you are trying to work at. My second tip is to do an externship, and an externship is something you have to apply for, and you're basically just following a nurse around. You have a preceptor. It's kind of like a stepstone from becoming a nursing student to an RN position. It's really helpful. You basically do everything the nurse does, and you get paid to do it. So that's something you have to apply for and interview for, but there's lots of externships available. Labor and delivery externships are pretty rare, so you can usually do your externship in the ED or ICU or med-surg. There's lots of other externships more like that, and that will just give you a clinical foundation of taking care of a patient in general, and it'll give you a lot of knowledge before you become a registered nurse. So I highly recommend that. They look at that as work experience as well. So doing an externship brings me to my next point, which is to network and contact as many labor and delivery managers and nurses as you can. So like I said, in the externship, you can use this opportunity while you're working there or after you're done working, even while you're doing clinicals as a nursing student, to just go and find the labor and delivery unit, find the manager, talk to some nurses, and see if you can shadow them. So this is pretty rare, and I'm not sure how likely this is, but it does give you a chance and it puts your foot in the door to present yourself. This gives you shadow opportunities. Shadowing is awesome because every hospital you apply to, if you shadow at that hospital, managers will already know you and they'll already know your name. So if they really liked you and they thought you're really good, they can actually pick your application out from the nursing recruiter and ask for you to be interviewed specifically. It's really good to get your foot in the door, put your face out there, and try to get as many labor and delivery opportunities as you can. And if you're really close to graduate, you can also leave a resume with them. So speaking of networking is really important, but it's also really important for this next step, and that's building really good relationships with your OB instructors. So while you're taking OB, it's really important to develop a really good relationship with your instructor. Make sure you're always asking good questions. Make sure you're always reading before a lecture, because she will be the one that gives you a really good letter of recommendation, and it's highly recommended actually with your OB instructor that teaches your lecture and also the one that teaches your clinicals. Try to build a really good relationship with your OB professor as well as your OB clinical instructor, because they can give you awesome letters of recommendation to get into labor and delivery. I highly recommend this tip. Make sure you're always asking good questions. Make sure you show up on time for clinicals. Make sure you build just a really good friendship and relationship with them, because their letter of recommendation counts a lot towards getting a labor and delivery position. So labor and delivery is a really hard specialty to get into just because it has such a low turnover rate. Nurses don't really leave labor and delivery once they get into it. Usually people come in from other specialties and come into labor and delivery, but labor and delivery nurses usually don't come out of it. So it's really hard to get into. Lots of people want it. It's a very highly sought after specialty. My route wasn't really a route that's really heard of. I haven't really heard of labor and delivery nurses doing both antepartum and labor and delivery at the same time. Do whatever you can to get into labor and delivery. Whether you start on a different unit and then come into labor and delivery, usually positions that aren't new grad positions require 1 year of nursing experience before you can get into labor and delivery. But yeah, so my last tip, definitely apply broadly, apply everywhere as much as you can, whether that be in a different city or town where you live in. If it works out with you and works out with your schedule, it's best to just apply broadly. Make sure you know the timelines that your hospital is opening up the application. That window is very limited and short. Usually it's about a week or two that you can apply for, so make sure you look up every hospital you want to apply for and look up the dates that they're opening up their residency positions for. So I hope these tips helped you guys. I hope you guys get to join this field. And if you are currently applying, make sure you look at my interview tip and trick video. I put out all my questions and answers that I got for my labor and delivery interviews. So make sure you check that out if you are getting ready to interview. Leave me a comment if you guys have any questions. If you guys haven't already, make sure you subscribe and join the family. Make sure you like this video as well. But yeah, leave me a comment if you guys have any questions, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!